Base is dropped on a new week of SDH AM. Thanks for dropping by. John here, you there. And it is going to be the Monday of Mondays, Reaction Monday, whatever's on your mind after what happened yesterday. And whatever happened on the weekend doesn't have to be tied, obviously, to Atlanta United. We will be talking a lot about Atlanta United. Abe Gordon going to be dropping in here in just a little bit. And then we will carry you through the sound that we've got. We've got Maddie caught up with head coach Ronny Deila. We also have some post-match comments from Steven Alzate for the first time, and the conversation, the post-match conversation that Jayden Hibbert got to have with the assembled media. So we'll go through all the numbers, go through the interviews that we've got, go through what happened with the twos, go through what happened with Unified. As a matter of fact, Unified is going to be kickoff, and we'll get into the rest of Major League Soccer on the day. So that's the rundown of what we've got. Like I said, and all of the transfer news, because remember, there's another 6 days left in the European window. There's news out of Europe this morning. We'll get into that, get into what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, and we'll run down the week. So let's run down the week. Okay. So as we have it right now, obviously, today is the day where we review everything from the weekend. Tomorrow, Casey White's going to join us in her normal kickoff slot at 9:15. So she's going to bat leadoff. Maddie's going to drop by, since the practices have been adjusted for Atlanta United. So she will not be in her car at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground waiting for practice. She'll be joining us from her space, and we'll catch up with her. And then wrapping up tomorrow, we'll have our continuing conversation, our multi-club organization operations master's class. Jason Stevens, we're catching up with him later today, and we will run that tomorrow. The conversation this time around is going to be, why do you have ownership groups that decide to be part of an MCO model? And that'll be the starting point of the conversation. I know at some point we do have to get into the whole venture capital thing and percentages and advantageous relationships and things like that. And we are going to be adding the South American component to all of this with another journalistic friend of ours from South America. And so that'll be coming up as we go. And there's a lot of stuff going on with MCOs and South America and what's going on in trying to navigate that landscape. So we'll be adding that to the discussion as we go forward. So tomorrow, Casey White, Maddie, Jason Stevens. That's going to be the show on Tuesday. Wednesday, it's going to be the standard Wednesday. It's going to be Tyler is going to join us at 9:15. We'll get the lowdown from Tyler coming out of this matchup, heading into the Nashville matchup. And I know a lot of you are heading up to Nashville for this one. Then see if we can catch up with the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler from MLSsoccer.com. That'll be at 10 o'clock on Wednesday. And Thursday is the standard power hour with Nino and Nico at 10 and 10:30. And on Friday, we'll see if we can catch up with our friends. It was great to see Greg Garza, by the way, in Mercedes-Benz yesterday before the Unified match. Got to catch up with him early. So see if we can catch up with our friends from Beyond Goals at 9:30, our friends from Major League Soccer at 10, get you ready for the weekend, get you ready for the trip to Nashville, and all the things. So wasting no time, I guess, impersonating opening kickoff. It's going to be our buddy Abe Gordon from 92.9 The Game. And dude, you got the headset on this morning.
Yeah, well, look, I'm just so excited. I couldn't wait to talk about what we saw last night. I mean, so much going on there at the Benz.
Yeah. Hashtag sarcasm font, I believe.
I was joking at halftime. It was like watching the Falcons' third preseason game. Like it's happening in front of us, but not overly interesting, much to take away from it, unfortunately.
Yeah, when you have when you have one team, and this was reminiscent of the twos match that we had on Saturday night, when you had one team that was interested in playing, one team definitely was not. And then as the match got along, Atlanta United seemed to be dragged into that quicksand that was being presented by Toronto, and you end up with a goalless draw. And I know that you and Mike had a lot to talk about in the post-game show about futures and positions and all these kinds of things. Where do you want to start the discussion about it? Like I said, it could be stuff off the field from what you were discussing yesterday and the futures of individuals, or the play on the field and addressing what happened there attitudinally. How do you want to go?
Well, yeah, let's take this in a backward circle here. And let's start with this. You're not making the playoffs. I don't care about no mathematical nonsense. You're eliminated. You're not making the playoffs. So we can start there. So why are you not going for glory? You're not trying to secure points. You're not trying to play careful and hold a spot on the table. You're certainly, I mean, you probably are actually looking over your shoulder, but for the wrong reasons as to where you are in the standings. And Ronny Deila said it, and you know, whatever phrase or term you want to use, sluggish, lack of bravery. I use the term uninspired, whatever it is, but you got to go for it. And it just didn't feel like the team was actively really pushing the foot to go for it. Who cares if you concede? I mean, honestly, who cares? And so it is frustrating. You don't see a little bit more. And the term I've used at multiple parts this season, which I don't view it as a negative term based on circumstance and situation, is reckless. Mm-hmm. Like get reckless in the attack, get forward, push forward, go for it. And if you give up a counter, if you concede at this point in the season, who cares? A loss is a loss. A draw feels like a loss. Go for it. So you didn't really get that. Ronny Deila said the team was slow, sluggish, potentially tired. I don't know what that's about. Doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. And some of that is because of Toronto's unwillingness to engage as well, certainly. And so I don't think you're going to see this similar style or anything that looks like that against Nashville, a team that on their right at home has to go for it, needs to score goals. And so it'll give you some opportunities opening up there. Now you continue to work backwards to the starting lineup. And I think that's where the fascinating discussion really begins. And I look, again, mathematically, and 10 cup finals, if you win all of them, you're at 50 points. And like we said all this crap 3 weeks ago, we, of course, knew you're not going to win 10 straight games and set a new MLS record. Not going to happen. Although Orlando's creeping up on the MLS record right now. I think they've got 7 straight wins.
Yeah.
Anyways. I always wondered when you'd start to see some more youth, and it started last night, and I think it will continue as we move forward. I don't think you're throwing a completely useless lineup out there where guys are going to be completely outmatched, but I wondered, and it starts with Goose, it starts with Brennan, and there are a bunch of other names that I want to see as well. If some, obviously Matt Edwards is injured, I'd love to see him get back out there for a little bit. I mentioned just in the offshoot 1 or 2 performances from Dom Chanqui I'd like to see, and some of the younger guys, Nick Sesak, Mazzaferro, if he has any call up left, stuff like that. But you also need to see Alzate in the midfield. I'd like to get a better look at him, and hopefully his fitness is getting close. Not to where he's even going a full 90, but can you put him out there for 60 and really get a look at Alzate alongside with Sleesh? I'd like to see Barakal as well. And so it started last night, though, with Jayden Hibbert in goal. I don't know what this means for Goose long-term. And for Goose, there isn't really a long-term. It's a maybe next year term. There's no long-term there. We obviously know what he's accomplished for his career. But I expected them at some point to try and get a look at Hibbert. I thought he performed well yesterday. I thought he made one pretty significant save. Other than that, everything was pretty routine. He wasn't troubled much. Yeah. But ball almost got in on him, tried to go nutmeg style. And I thought that was the best opportunity of the game for either team. And Hibbert was up to the task. And so you want to see what you can get out of Hibbert, and if he's in the consideration for being the number 1 keeper next year, or if you have to look elsewhere if the decision is made to not bring Goose back. So I want to see more of Brennan in there. There's no doubt about that, and some of the other guys. And we'll see what that means for some of the mainstays who have been outstanding all year. Does Sleesh take a step back in terms of being used? Does Moranchuk take a step back in terms of being used? I mean, again, you're not going for anything. You're not winning anything. This is your opportunity to evaluate. And if you're going to do that with some of the names we haven't seen that often this year, then some of the mainstays have to hold the spot on the bench for the time being. And I think we're all, I would hope, coming to a point where we're accepting and okay with that based on the standings.
Jayden yesterday, 2 saves, goals prevented a .38. So I guess that's a non-XG or an XAG. I don't know. Whatever, however you.
It's an AG, but an anti-goal.
There you go. Thank you. So it is the anti-goal stats, a minus .38 according to our friends at SofaScore. 2 punch clears, and those are the challenges I think that you are concerned about at times. If you are a team with a lot of experience that Toronto is bringing to the table, trying to crash on a corner, Jayden very, very confident a couple of times with his punch clears and going into all of that madness and the massive humanity and clearing things out. 1 save from inside the 18, 37 touches, 24-29 passing at 83%, 3 long balls connecting on the day, 2 clearances, and had the 1 aerial duel won. And I think that the other thing that where Jayden is concerned, we have to just remember going forward that Jayden stylistically is going to be a little different than Brad. Jayden is the kind of sweeper keeper where he'll play the ball 25, 30 yards away from his own goal and be completely and totally confident with the ball at his feet. So I want to put up that Surgeon General's warning ahead of time that however many times you see Jayden Hibbert going forward, him being outside the 18 and being active with his feet is something that is a part of his DNA. It's not something that it's like, oh, he's going out to do it just this one time. It's a part of his DNA. He's a different animal between the sticks than the other keepers that are here in-house.
Yeah, and really it's about if there's a costly mistake in that style of play. I thought he was very good with his feet yesterday, and to your point, I thought those long balls, a couple of them, I don't know how he put that ball where it needed to be or the vision to even see a run out of the midfield. I thought he was very good yesterday. I thought he was very calm and very confident. I do expect him to make some serious mistakes. I think in his last start, there was 1 or 2 that I was like, boy, that's not the right ball to play there.
The one pass up the middle that was just outside the 18 where he had to return and actually make the save on the pass and the turnover, yes.
Right. And so it's just kind of what can you live with right now and how does he learn and avoid those mistakes? And I've always said it's not the worst thing in the world to just play it up the pitch or play it out of bounds if you get pressured. It's just about those growing pains for him. But I thought he was very good yesterday. And again, and this is why I say I want to see these young guys. I want to see Dom Chanqui. I want to see Sesak. I want to see Alfonso, Luke Brennan, and whoever it may be. And the same thing echoes double probably for Hibbert. If you're going to make mistakes, if you're going to have experiences that are coaching moments, teachable moments, learning moments, do it now when you're 38 games out of first place or whatever it might be. You know what I mean? Like don't come into next year as the number 1 still trying to figure out how you can play in the MLS. You have a couple of matches, a couple of opportunities here to adjust to the league that you haven't really seen that much of. And so I would use this time to do that. I think Dom Chanqui should make 2 starts. Like I know he's been with the 2s. He had a rough go when he was in the MLS earlier in the season. There's no doubt about that. He's now played another full season of pro soccer. I'd like to see him and what adjustments he's made over the course of his year, but also in terms of having see it 1 or 2 more times before heading into the offseason. Like you got thrust into a situation because of early season injuries to play young guys that had not seen the lean. Don Chanqui, one of them, Matt Edwards, another, and there's a couple others as well that had early season call-ups. Maybe they got into the game as a sub, maybe they didn't.
Yeah.
Matt Edwards, it worked out. He flourished, and you moved him all over the field until his injury, and it was great. Dom Chanqui, not as much, but I think you owe it to yourself to give these guys more experience because you don't want to be in a situation where if you have injury concerns early next year, you have to bring him up and you haven't let him see the MLS since early this past season. So again, I think there's an opportunity here to get some experiences out of the way that you just don't want the first time to be on another fresh season where the results actually matter.
All right, so let me see if I've got your shopping lists ready here. Abe Gordon, 92.9 The Game, hanging out with us as he always does, batting leadoff on a Monday. All right, so at the back, you want to see more of Mihai, I imagine, because he's one of the newer faces. You want to see more of Matt Edwards at the back. You want to see more of Dom Chong-Kui. And I think that takes care of the back. You want to see more – Barakal. You want to see more of Alzate as he gets closer to being fit. You want to see more of – I imagine you want to see more of Will Riley and seeing how he integrates into the midfield. Pars to your question about Jay Fortune, not this season. Because yesterday, and Jay Fortune definitely, the midfield is different without Jay. I will say that right now. Without Jay Fortune, Jay yesterday at the unified match for the first time was not on the scooter. He was out walking around. It was labored, but understandably so. So Jay Fortune now in a walking boot, and I imagine that he can gauge walking boot versus scooter right now, but not this season. So we're anticipating Jay being ready for next year. So that takes care of the midfield, I think. On the wing, you're looking at Luke, probably some more of Cayman Togashi, considering you have to make decisions on him. Who am I missing? Did I get everybody?
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah, I think you got pretty much everyone there. It's just kind of circle everyone in for whatever. I just don't. Again, the results are so irrelevant at this point. I think getting a look and seeing what guys can do, letting guys get accustomed to the league is so much more important right now because it sets you up for what you can and can't do next season. I want to see a lot more Will Riley in the midfield as well. The midfield is such a jumble right now. Because you've added Alzate and obviously you're not moving Sleesh anywhere or Moranchuk if you consider him part of the midfield, not the attack, whatever. But there's an open position and it's like, is Jay Fortune there? Is Alzate there? Is Will Riley in the discussion? Are you considering Moyamba again? And so I think the defense and the midfield just has so many rotating parts potential that you just got to look and see who works best with Sleesh because that's the one guy you do know is going to be there.
Yeah, and so that's the big one of the big elements going forward. And to your point about sitting guys and starting guys and all this kind of stuff, my concern, in addition to integrating, which I understand, I'm integrating the younger players. I understand your point there. Is the idea that if you do take a Miranchuk off, then who turns into that playmaker on that given day? Considering the hot hand that you've had with Alexi the last handful of matches, to 3 goals in 4 matches going into yesterday. If you take him off to try and see and have your screen tests, then that to me is a concern just because you won't have that playmaker there just as a
Good. I don't want someone covering up the lack of ability of others. Let's find out who is the playmaker. Let's find out who is going to step up. Let's find out who should be next in line. Because I want guys to have to deal with new opportunities and not that you don't rely on your teammates, but to not specifically rely on one teammate. And again, you're talking about it as if, I'm concerned they may not create chances. It was scoreless yesterday. They're down at the bottom of the table. I'm not concerned if they don't look good because I don't care if they get points right now. For me, it's about figuring stuff out heading into an offseason. I think that'd be of increasing importance for Chris Henderson to figure out, and Ronny Deila as well. And so if it's ugly, if you look uninspired or whatever, like that's fine too. I'd like to find out now that this guy doesn't have the ability to take his game to the next level against MLS competition then at some point next season.
All right. So you've got Luke Brennan. You mentioned Luke yesterday as one of your examples, causing his standard amount of chaos, 48 touches, 19 to 21 passing, down the left-hand side at 90%. Had the one cross, 4 attempts successfully on the dribble, 4 of 7 on the dribble yesterday. 9 of 16 on ground duels yesterday. So wins 9 ground duels and was successful 4 times on the dribble. He was fouled 3 times, and he also had 2 tackles. So a well-rounded effort, if I could get my tongue to work this morning, for Luke Brennan on the day.
Yeah, the other thing for Luke Brennan is the referees have got to protect him. It's starting to get real reckless in terms of his fouls. It is because he's tricky with his footwork. It's because he's quick and fast and beat guys to the ball that they don't think he's going to beat them to. He has got to be protected. And you were sitting up there with me for a stretch there yesterday, and he just got taken out time after time with no card shown. And you look, he's young, right? The ligaments bend in ways that some of the older players, and you can't just throw out the fact that he's young as allowing him to take a beating.
No,
he has got to be protected, and at some point it's going to become a problem. But I think he's been very good. It was unfortunate that he had to be sent to the bench a couple weeks ago, only because Saba had been so good, and you had the obviously a different formation up top yesterday because Alzate lost injury, and Jamal Tiare not quite being 90 minutes fit either with his calf. That you got both Saba and Brennan, but Saba was on such a heater, you had to keep throwing him out there. Maybe he's cooled off a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Brennan has just shown time after time that he is dangerous on that left side, both for himself and for others. I also really like what he does defensively higher up the pitch, his work ethic. And he's got I feel like Luke probably at his age is playing like a guy who needs to prove it every single week. And I think that's why you get an ultra intense, ultra driven player on both sides of the ball. And I really like what you've seen out of him. This guy feels like he needs to be in the discussion for a mainstay left winger, both the rest of this season and certainly in the discussion heading into next year as well.
No doubt about it. All right. I know you turn into a pumpkin here pretty quick. So what are your what's going on with you this week? How's the calf? How's the running going?
Yeah, everything's good. We cleared out of the half marathon a week ago, so came out of that relatively healthy and did some miles over the weekend, so feeling pretty good. We're still going to keep some distance on us, so we'll figure all that out time wise and all that. But everything's good, gearing up. Busy weekends coming. Atlanta United obviously gets going. But you're also working in college football. You're working in the NFL soon. So a lot of football, both American and European, coming your way. So excited for that.
7:30 on Saturday night. It is Five Stripes Countdown with you and Maddie, who I believe is going to be in Nashville for this one. So it's going to be 2 states worth of the Five Stripes Countdown, and then obviously the full-time report after that. 7:30, so an 8:40 start on Saturday night. Atlanta heads to Nashville to take on Nashville SC. As always, my friends, great to see you. It's great to see you inside Mercedes-Benz. Great to see you here when you bat leadoff with us on Monday mornings. Be safe. Continue the pacing. Make sure that with everything going on around us, that the pacing is there and that we don't get too caught up and end up tripping on things. Be safe, my friend. We'll catch you up soon.
Thanks, John. Always a pleasure.
You got it. There's Abe Gordon, 92.9 The Game, and the Odyssey app. Hanging out with us, batting leadoff as he always does. And what is that? I don't know. To Abe's point, obviously, the bigger stuff pregame was Chris Henderson mentioning the discussion about Brad and the keeper status. And so that will be something that will be looked at with the magnifying glass going forward. So we'll see what it looks like. I mean, obviously, we have discussed the contract situations and who has what and what you're looking at when it comes to roster profile and who is going to be a contract decision going forward from the players that are at the end of this contract. So once again, Brooks, contract through 25, option for 26. And you've got Jamal, 25, option for 26. Josh Cohen, 25, option for 26. Brad, 25, no option. End of his contract. Ronald, contract through 25, option for 26. I would pick it up. Derek Williams obviously has been moved on. Click has been moved on. Luis Abram has been moved on. Then you get into your supplementals. Matt Edwards, homegrown, contract through 25, options for 26 and 27. Jay, homegrown 25, option for 26. You picked that up yesterday. And I mean you pick it up yesterday. Jayden Hibbert, contract through 25, option years 26, 7, and 8. Ephra obviously has been moved on. Will Riley has the same contract as Jayden Hibbert. Contract through 25, options 26, 7, and 8. Cayman Togashi, contract through 25, option for 26. I would pick that up. So that's what you're looking at with just the quick numbers. You've got U22 spots available, and right now with your 3 DPs, Miggy, Latelot, and Miranchuk, that means that you're on a 3+3 model, so you have 3 U22s available. My guess is that you probably put Jay, as I sit here and try and feverishly find how old Jay is off the top of our collective head here. So you would probably pick up Jay, who is 23. You figure out the machinations there, but right now he's at 22. 22, and he turns 23 on December 30th. So signing Jay, obviously, in trying to navigate that is probably one of the things going forward. So that is what you're looking at with those particular contracts and issues that are here. So let's obviously we got all of your thoughts, and we've already got our first bot of the week, so we have that coming up. All right, let's get into the numbers, get into the starting lineups. We'll get into some of the highlights. Obviously, the highlights of the numbers as they came out, courtesy of our friends at SofaScore. We went over the Luke Brennan numbers in the starting lineup, and Luke, with his numbers, had a 6.9. Highest score on the afternoon from a starter was from Mihai, who had a 7.4. Jayden had a 7.2. Bart had a 7.2. Stian had a 7.3. Miggy had a 7.1. He also had a yellow card. And, the center ref, the inconsistency, and I will phrase it that way, there was no rhythm or rhyme to when you were going to flash a card, when you were going to make a call, when you were not going to make a call. To Abe's point about Luke Brennan, that's another key element in all of this. Just, if you have Toronto who wants to muck it up, have no interest in playing, do that for a full 90 minutes, and when you get to be either physical with a player past the point of when the whistle should be used and not getting whistled for a foul, you're going to continue to push that envelope, as you should, because if you're playing negatively and you're trying to just bog everything down and you're going to drag the other team down with it, and I think that played a part of it too, that you end up with a lot of the activity that you saw on the field yesterday. And I know a lot of folks were frustrated with the way that the match was being handled by Lorenzo Hernandez. And trust me, you were not alone in that assessment. So with stylistically Lorenzo Hernandez being all over the place and not being able to have a baseline with which to operate, offensively, you really couldn't get anything going. Defensively, you used it to your advantage and frustrated the other team offensively. And I think that Atlanta becoming frustrated, and in addition to Toronto not wanting to engage in any kind of play, I think that also contributed to the whole dynamic on the afternoon. So you end up with, we mentioned Jayden's numbers. So if an AME high ends up with a 7.4 on the afternoon, 4 clears, 2 blocks, a tackle, a dribble pass. He won 3 of his 4 duels. 77 touches, 89% passing at 62 of 70, 4 out of 6 on long balls, and that was the afternoon for an Mihai. Starting lineup, Pedro Amador comes back. You're back 4. Amador, Mihai, Gregerson, and Ronald Hernandez. 2 midfielders in front of them were Tristan and Bart. And then the 3 midfielders in the attack, Luke, Alexi, and Saba. And then you had Miggy as your 9 because of the injury to Latte Lot. And Miggy having to go for most of the match, 86 minutes. He was subbed out for Togashi there at the end. But Miggy on the day, the X-all, 0.63, had 1 shot, 40 touches, 19 to 21 passing at 90%, 2 key passes, 1 cross, won 5 duels on the ground, 5 of 16 on the day, was fouled 4 times, 1 clear, 1 block, a tackle, and a dribble pass. So you look at the statistics, and it's obviously a big part of the frustration there. So you look at the stats on the afternoon as they load. Oh, it's going to be like this today. Okay, there we go. I don't care about possession. It's a random thing. So 2 big chances on the day for Toronto, 12 shots to 6. 2 saves for Jayden Hibbert, 1 for Brookwood High's Sean Johnson. 11 corners, 6 to Atlanta. 26 fouls called in the match. 17 of them given to Atlanta United. Once again, this goes to our whole point about the man in the middle. Toronto, playing the way that they were playing, only got called for 9 fouls. And if you're going to not get called, then you're going to continue to do it. Atlanta, for playing and trying to play before they just got genuinely frustrated and not being able to play. 17 of the 26 fouls called on Atlanta United. I didn't realize it was that disparaging a margin. But 26 fouls, 17 called on Atlanta United, which makes virtually no sense. And if you heard Mike and Jason on the call, they pretty much were in concert with that idea. The center ref all over the place. And 17 of the 26 fouls called on Atlanta United. I don't get it. And you end up with Luke Brennan being fouled 4 times. 4 of the 9 fouls that were called were on Luke in the offensive zone. Some days you just can't make sense of it. And sadly, this is another one of those days where you can't make sense of it from a whistling and fouling and carding perspective. 4 yellow cards. So here we go once again. So we mentioned the foul numbers. 17 of the 26 go to Atlanta United. 3 yellow cards to Atlanta United on the 17 fouls. 1 yellow card of the 9 for Toronto FC. You just kind of, look, I don't get it. And like I said, sadly, it's another one of those opportunities where we sit there and we're going, I don't get it. And you just kind of throw up your hands. You're like, I don't know. I legitimately do not know. 20 football touches inside the 18 for Atlanta, 19 for Toronto FC, 4 times fouled in the final third, 2 offsides. It was ground duels 46-21 for Toronto, 7-7 in the air, 6 of 5 on the dribbles. So 30 clearances each side, 41 recoveries for Atlanta compared to 34. 6 picks of the 13 go to Atlanta United, 23 total tackles. So 23 total tackles, and you're only calling 9 fouls. 23 tackles, 9 fouls. That margin needs to be a little closer. So those are your numbers out of the starting lineups. Also for Atlanta United, once again, folks getting cups of coffee late. Obviously, as Ronny Deila is trying to change things up and figure out where his offense can come from. Using all 5 subs, he brings in Brooks and Alzate for the final 30. Like I said, we'll hear from Steven Alzate in a minute. Jamal comes in as a part of that triple sub. Barakal and Cayman Togashi come in, replacing Ronald and Miggy with about 4 minutes to go. So, and then also on the bench on the day, Leo Alfonso, Will Riley, Nick Sessick, and Brad Gazan. Brad had back spasms, did not practice on Friday, And so you end up with Jayden getting the minutes that he got in the matchup on the weekend. So goalless draw. I mean, going in, one team wanted to play, one team didn't. I think the team that didn't want to play dragged the team that wanted to play down into the muck and the mire, and you end up with a goalless draw as a result. All right, let's get into the sound from the afternoon. And we'll start off with Maddie and her conversation with Ronny Deila. If you missed it, here's the conversation. Maddie catching up with Ronny Deila coming off the pitch at Mercedes-Benz.
Ronny, we saw Miguel be the number 9 today for you guys. What did you see from him in that position?
The reason that we played him there was because Jamal has just come back from injury. So we want to, we cannot play him too much. So that was the big reason. But it was difficult, of course, for Miguel to play a position he's not used to play. But I think he did okay. And then in the last half hour, we go back to what we have done before again. So we didn't get enough chances today. That was went a little bit too slow with the ball, and we also didn't have that energy that we have in many of the other home games.
I watched you at before the second half. You walked out to meet the field at halftime. You were in the huddle, giving some directions. What were you saying in that meeting?
It's just that here you have to be very quick in the break, because if not, you get fines and all these things. So I didn't feel that I get sacked to said what I needed to say. So I went out to say a couple of words, but nothing more.
Yeah. Jayden Hibbert got the start in between the posts tonight. What did you make of his performance?
I think he he did everything very, very good. Clean sheet is important. That's a long time since we have that, and we haven't had many of this year. So that is positive.
Yeah. Going up against Nashville, a really difficult opponent next week. What do you want to see change in this week in training to get the result next week?
Change. We just we need to get the best out of ourselves, you know. And today I think we look a little bit sluggish, a little bit slow, and need to be sharper. So that's the main thing now. We know what we're going to do, how we're going to play. So and keep clean sheet. That you do that, we'll also get something with you. So now we just need to create more, and that we did today.
Awesome. Thank you, Ronny.
Ronny Deila, head coach of Atlanta United, with Matty Cruz after the match, courtesy of 92.9 The Game on the Odyssey app. So that was the conversation post-match in the goalless draw. And I'll go. Let me play the sound from Jayden Hibbert and Steven Alzate, and then we'll get into what is on your mind this morning. And so we'll get into that as well. We do have a little bit of reffing down here to get into. Bart, by the way, I don't know if he got out of it. If Bart appears at 10 o'clock, then we'll know that he did, that his services were no longer required. Bart drew the jury duty card. Traditionally, Bart Keeler from the Soccer for US POD joins us at 10 o'clock on Mondays. Bart drew the jury duty card. Found out Friday that he was supposed to show up. Traditionally, I reminded him, it's like you can call in the night before, I think after like 6 o'clock or something, and you can determine whether or not you still have to go in. I'm guessing that Bart still had to go in. So next time Bart comes on, we'll discuss his jury duty adventures. And traditionally, most of the time when we have jury duty, it's just literally one of those things where you sit in a room, keep yourself busy, hope that your devices are fully charged while you sit in a room, and then if you don't get called by noon, you're done. Your day is done. Then there are times where you sit in a room, you're still hanging out there, and you go to lunch, you come back, and it ends up being a full day of sitting, and you pray that your devices haven't died. But we will get Bart's jury duty adventure next time he's up, unless he pops in 15 minutes, and he didn't tell me that he got out of jury duty. So that's where we are with Bart and his appearances. But we do have a couple of moments from reffing down here. We do have a moment from the Premier League, and we do have a moment from MLS After Dark that we do have to get into. And they're fairly, one is a fairly easy call, and the other is I'm going to look at it and we'll walk through it. A lot of folks were wondering about this particular call, the second call that we're going to get into in Cards and Calls, where you're like, I don't know. And it ended up being an impactful moment in a game late on Saturday night. Okay. We mentioned Jayden Hibbert. So Jayden's numbers, we mentioned Jayden getting the start over Brad Guzan. with Josh Cohen continuing to try and come back from injury. And Jayden Hibbert, this is the post-match scrum with Jayden Hibbert with the assembled media, once again courtesy of our friends at Atlanta United. Jayden Hibbert in the media after the match.
Coach was just saying that of all the players on the team, you've got the positive stats. What worked well for you tonight?
Yeah, I think it wasn't too much, personal. We got Steven and Anea, who's big games. Steven had a huge block in the first half. Anea, same thing, second half allows me to not have to make a save. But, I think Brad, the goalkeeper union, the staff, the players throughout the week giving me confidence, just to go out there and do what I do best. So, I appreciate them for that, allowing me to step out and, help the team in any way I can.
Chris Henderson talked about earlier this week, the team is looking for a number one goalkeeper for next year because Brad is going to be out of contract. Is this your audition to become that number one guy?
Yeah, I'm not too sure what, they have in mind, but I'm always going to put my best foot forward. It's competition at the end of the day. It's a business, and I want to be the number one now. In the start of the year, I want it to be, and next year, it's something I work for every day, every week, doing it throughout. So, I want to be that guy, and that's all I can do.
What's been the most important thing you've learned from Brad and Josh and the goalkeeping coach that's put you into this position where you're starting in the big game?
Yeah, they're all, my seniors. Josh played Champions League football against PSG, Messi, Mbappe, and Bradley was in the Premier League. Same with, Elliot. So, every day I get little things every single day. And something big is, they say just do what you're good at. And, I use my athleticism, combined with the information they're telling me. And, the world is my oyster. I could reach, high levels, and that's what I want to do.
You're already getting chances here with the first team, but what do you feel you still need to work on to get more consistent starts?
Yeah, I think the feet, we want to play at times. We want to be able to stretch them. We have speed with Latila, Jamal, Miguel, Saba, everyone look deep. So, able to play the long balls, but also they have to respect, the passing game. I can play through the middle, little ones to the fullbacks, center backs, and decision making. These games are perfect for me. Goalkeeper is something that comes with experience, and, this is phenomenal for me to learn every single game through the mistakes and through the positives too.
Do you think you did enough today to start against Nashville?
We need to win the game at the end of the day, and we didn't. But the clean sheet is always something to take away from that, and it's up to the coach. I hopefully it leaves a good taste in his mouth, but we'll see how it goes.
Jayden Hibbert after the match yesterday, the goalless draw with Toronto FC. And that was the post-match media scrum. The other interview that we have from post-match is with Steven Alzate and with Abe and the conversation that we were having. Alzate, one of the secondary transfer window pickups, and it is a familiar face for Ronny Deila with the time that the two of them spent at Standard Liège. And so on the day, Alzate comes in, gives you 30. And he had 26 touches, 20 of 23 passing at 87%, had one long ball on the day, and won a duel in the air and was called for 2 fouls. Go figure. So here is the quick conversation. It was a multilingual Q&A with Steven Alzate. Here is the English portion with Alzate post-match after the goalless draw with Toronto, once again courtesy of our friends at Atlanta United.
Steven, un partido que se necesitaba ganar, no se consiguió el resultado. ¿Cuáles son tus impresiones de este juego?
Unless, of course, you dump the whole thing. So let me see if I can find the right spot here. Hang on just a second.
The most important thing you've learned from Brad and Josh and the goalkeeping coach that's put you into this position where you're starting.
Okay, well, that's running the whole thing. That was not appropriate. Hang on, let me see if I can shuttle it here. See if I can figure out where it is.
Steven, do you feel like you're starting to develop some chemistry with Bartek and that double pivot?
Yeah, I feel like I'm starting to build chemistry with the whole team in general. Obviously, it takes time to gel with a team, but yeah, at the end of the day, I'm the one that's playing with the midfielders, not just Bartek, Tristan, Miranchuk, whoever plays in the midfield. I feel like every day I'm starting to understand my teammates, and that's important moving forward.
There you go. Steven Alzate quickly after the match with Toronto and Atlanta. Alzate giving you 30 minutes as he gets integrated into what Ronny Deila is asking of him going forward with Atlanta United. So with that goalless draw, once again, you're looking for the matchup now in Nashville. And it is, once again, 8:40 kick. A lot of 17s, I imagine, might be heading up to Geodas and to see what's going on with Atlanta and Nashville. Nashville had another strong offensive performance, basically took, how do we say? Here in this part of the world, I believe the proper terminology would be took the purple team out to the woodshed. And it was over after 45. But so that's what you're staring at with Major League Soccer after the weekend. Let's go through all of the other scores. Mention Nashville, like I said, it was over at the break. You had Sam Surridge with a brace, Hani Mukhtar with a brace, both of those in the first half. Jonathan Palacio scored at 90+4. Luis Muriel picked up a really dumb red card in the 81st, and it was a 5-1 win for Nashville. Nashville is waiting for Atlanta United coming up on the weekend. Also on the weekend, I love when you're trying to sit there and you look at a schedule and it just kind of goes back 2 pages. NYC shuts out Cincinnati 1-0. That one was at TQL, a bit of a surprise result. Cincinnati was a prohibitive favorite in that matchup. New England, another surprise, and it was a 2-1 win in Columbus against Crew. And so that was probably one of the big shocks of the weekend, that New England goes into lower.com and gets a win. Campana and Ganago score 2-0 at the break, and it was Daniel Gazdag scoring with about 20 to go to make it 2-1. Columbus does not come up with an equalizer, and so it's a 2-1 win, full points for the Revs on the road. Big win for them considering how under fire Caleb Porter is right now as head coach in New England. Another one of the surprise results. DC and Messi and Friends, a 1-1 draw. So that one did not have that one on the bingo card at all. And it was a rotated side because Messi and Friends have Leagues Cup to worry about in the midweek. Just to give you an idea, goal by Hopkins in the 13th made it 1-0, stayed that way until the 64th, and then Baltazar Rodriguez on an absolute golazo from about 25 got it past the keeper, Luis Barraza, and it was a 1-1 draw. So your starting lineup, Rocco Rios Novo was in net for Messi and Friends. Left to right, it was Noah Allen, Gonzalo Lujan, Ryan Saylor, and Cello Weigant, your back four. Tomas Avilas and David Ruiz in front of them. Your attacking midfield, Fafa Pico, Talasco Segovia, Benjamin Kremasky, and Tadeo Allende was up top in the 4-2-3-1 for Javier Mascherano. On the bench, you end up with William Yarbrough as your second keeper. See, it wasn't even a day for Oscar Ustari. Ustari was rested and not even probably on the plane. Ian Frey, Santi Morales, Sergi Busquets, Luis Suarez, who did make cameos late, as well as Rodrigo de Paul, just to kind of keep the engine warm. And this was kind of the point that I was making with Abe wanting to see a lot of the younger players and not having the experienced folks out there when you're trying to chase results, period. And so that was my concern. That's where I was coming from in making sure that, you have to manage the players that are contributing. If we take Abe's idea of starting a lot of the younger players and the newer players, who do you keep as your holdovers to integrate offensively with what Ronny Deila is looking for, especially where your DPs are concerned? That was my point with Abe. So Yannick Bright, Rodrigo de Paul, Maxi Falcone, and Baltazar Rodriguez, that was your bench. So no Messi at all. And coming off the bench, it was de Paul and Suarez and Busquets eventually, but it stayed a 1-1 draw for Messi and Friends and for DC United at Audi Field. I wonder what the longest beer snake was on the weekend. Montreal and Austin in an absolute shootout at Stade Saputo. I did not anticipate that this was going to be 5 goals on the board by the end of the day. And it was a goal by Radi Sinchuk, and then Sealy. Sinchuk scores, Uzuni scores, Mirto Uzuni scores to make it 1-1, and then Sealy scores at 45+3, 2-1 at the break. Owen Wolf Actually, Owusu scores from the penalty spot in the 67th to make it 3-1. Owen Wolf scores with 13 to go to make it 3-2. That's your final. And so Montreal gets 3 past Brad Stuver, and it's a 3-2 win for Montreal. And you end up with Philly putting 4 on Chicago. Dallas and LAFC a 1-1 draw. Dallas hanging on in that one, and they had some chances late too to get full points. A result lost for LAFC. San Jose over Houston 2-1 at Hell in a Shell. We mentioned Nashville and Orlando. Minnesota goes to RSL and wins that one 3-1. Vancouver 3-2 over St. Louis. And Thomas Mueller in his post-match kind of spilled the beans a little bit about Tristan Blackman, which was kind of funny. And it was the moment that created the late penalty, which is part of Cards and Calls that we'll get into in just a little bit. So LAG over Colorado 3-0, and another surprise in Carson, California. Rotated lineup because LAG's got to worry about Leagues Cup. And it rotated. I mean, rotated. I think it was 10 changes for Greg Vanney. And you end up with a goal for one of the youngins, 18 years old, for the Galaxy, getting a start, and it was 18 and almost a half for Harbor Miller. Harbor Miller gets the first goal on the board in the 7th. Elijah Winder scores in the 55th. Gabriel Peck scores in the 75th. 3-0 LAG with a big win over Colorado. And then you get into the remainder of the activity. I think there was only one more match after LAG. Yeah, San Diego and Portland. This one was the surprise late because you anticipated a whole lot of goals. You didn't get any. San Diego and Portland, a goalless draw there. And it was at the Murph Dragon, no goals on the board for either side. Charlotte over New York, 1-0 over Red Bulls. So Charlotte's now won 7 in a row as they continue to climb the table. And the goal for Charlotte comes from Kerwin Vargas in the 30th. Unexpected source there. But that's what you need if you're trying to be successful at random points of the season. Other folks will step up when you're trying to, when everybody's all locked in on your stars, you got to get it from another source. Kerwin Vargas was that for Charlotte, getting the win. Goal in the 30th minute, and they hang on against Red Bulls. Then the late night match in MLS Sunday After Dark, or Sunday Night Soccer After Dark, Seattle and Sporting. And it was a busy night for Danny Musovski. Danny Musovski had the hat trick, 45+1, 50th, and a PK in the 75th. And you pair that up with a goal by Kosa Rienzi in the 11th minute. And then you have one of the youngins, another youngin stepping up in Snyder Brunel. So Snyder Brunel scores for Seattle as well. And when our buddy Nico Moreno joins us on Thursday, we'll find out about this matchup, find out about what's gotten into Danny Musovski. Is it just getting the regular playing time, or is it something else? Taking over for Jordan Morris at the point, and then getting into the younger players. Once again, to the point that we've been making about Atlanta United's younger players. You're seeing the younger players stepping up for Seattle out of necessity. You got Snyder Brunel stepping up, Kalani Kosa Rienzi stepping up, and Reed Baker Whiting and John Bell and Cody Baker and all these different players stepping up for Seattle. And it was 5-2. It was crazy in the second half at points. First off, Kosa Rienzi scores in the 11th to make it 1-0. Mason Toye evens it up in the 36th to make it 1-1. Musovski scores 45+1 to make it 2-1. Second half, Cody Baker, Musovski scores again to make it 3-1. OG from Cody Baker, and it was literally Baker stepping out to try and defend a shot inside the 18, goes off of Baker and creates this massive spin, and it goes into the back of the net past Stephen Fry, and we welcome Stephen Fry back to being getting starts in Major League Soccer. So it was 3-2 at that point. Then Brunel scores with 30 to go, and then the PK from Musovski with 15 to go, 5-2 your final, and Seattle wins in MLS Sunday Night Soccer After Dark. And so that was the rundown of the activity from the weekend. To get into the standings, Eastern Conference, Philadelphia is at 54 points, and this is 28 matches played unless otherwise notified. 28 matches, Philadelphia is at 54, Cincinnati's at 52, Nashville is at 50, Charlotte, who has now won 15 games for the first time in a season. 11-2-1, by the way, at home. Only 4-9-1 away from home, away from the bank this year. They're at 47 points. They have 2 more wins than Orlando, 15-13. Messi and friends have played 25 matches, so 3 matches in hand. The one against, if you wanted to consider DC one, where they should have gotten 3 points and they only got 1, 2 points left on the table. If they win the matchups that they have in hand, they win out, they would be at the top of the table in the East. Columbus at 45 points, 27 matches played. NYC has a couple of matches in hand, and they're at 44 points, so they could do some climbing if results go their way. Red Bulls right now, so you'd have Hudson River for the 8-9 right now as things stand. NYC at 44, then there's a gap to 9th with Red Bulls at 39 playing 28 matches. 10-2-2 in Harrison, New Jersey. They've only won once away from home. Chicago at 39 points, and they have the same number of wins. They have a match in hand, but they've got worse goal difference. New England, and this is group number 3. New England is at 31 points, 27 matches. Toronto, 24 points, 27 matches. Montreal with the win. Hopscotches both Atlanta and D.C. Had they lost, they would have been eliminated from playoff contention as well. So Montreal at 23 points, 28 matches played. Atlanta, only 4 wins on the year, and they are at 23 points, 27 matches. DC United eliminated at 21 points in 4 matches with 53 goals allowed, 24 scored, goal difference of -29. Western Conference, San Diego is in. Don't know where, but they're in. Right now, 28 matches, 53 points. Loons are second at 50. 27 matches played. Vancouver at 49 points. Seattle's at 44 at 27 matches. That's your 1 through 4. 5 is LAFC at 25 matches played because of CONCACAF. They've got matches to go. If they win out, they would be second and presumably in second with a higher goal difference than Minnesota. Portland at 38 points, 27 matches. Colorado, 28 points, 36 matches. San Jose, 35. Same number of wins as Austin. Far superior goal difference, but San Jose and Austin is your 8-9 right now at 35 points. Below the playoff bar. 31 points for RSL, 27 matches. Everybody below the playoff bar right now in the West has only played 27. RSL at 31, Dallas at 30, Houston at 29. Once again, 4 even to get into the discussion. 6 if you're Houston right now, who's in 12th. Kansas City's at 24 points. All Caps are at 21. And LAG are at 4 wins after the disastrous start that they had. And they have not won on the road either this year, and they are at 4 wins and 19 points. And that's your rundown of the East and the West. So that is that's what's going on in Major League Soccer. So, all right, let's get into your comments this morning and say hi to everybody, because I still haven't had opening kickoff yet. So opening kickoff is going to end up being in hour number 2. How's that? So we're going to open hour number 2 with things. Morning, Pars. Morning, Alex. And, once again, Pars, to your earlier point about Jay Fortune, really looking forward to Jay and his return at full strength. Like I said, we saw Jay on the sidelines, interviewed him yesterday as a part of the unified match, and it was good to see him walking around. You could tell it was still a bit of an, it's a little difficult not being on the scooter. He's just kind of shuffling. But really, you're looking for the return of Jay Fortune. You want him to come back 100% healthy. And we continue to reserve the right to be perpetually angry at Hervé Renard and his style of play with the Saudi Arabia national team, considering what happened in CONCACAF. The framed pincer Z got taken care of as a bot. Abby, good morning. Obviously, last night a continuation, disappointing. That's it. So Pedro showed up for a bit. Matt Edwards was there. DCQ and Riley was there as well. Morning, Alex. And to Alex's point, Bart was dropping between the center backs a lot more often yesterday. Yeah, he was. And I think that once again, it's trying to make sure that Georgi Mihailovic could not beat you. I think that knowing how, because as Jason had phrased this, this is a battle of two number 10s. When in your focus, it was, you're looking at Alexi and you're looking at Georgie. So Georgie could not beat you. Bart was playing more of a defensive posture yesterday. And so up front in the 4-4-1-1, 4-4-2, whatever you want to call it, until the ball and until the whistle goes and the ball is kicked. Brynhildsen had a bit of an off day. Georgi Mihailovic was one of the higher rated players on the afternoon. And so basically what you want is you want to try and not have Mihailovic, Corbinu, who gave you trouble up at BMO, and Osorio and Coelho, make sure that they could not beat you in combination. If you remember Casey White in her analysis and who to look at for Toronto FC, she said keep an eye on Coelho with how he controls the midfield for Toronto and gets things started in transition. Now for Georgi Mihailovic, I understand the idea of not wanting Georgie to beat you with his 360-degree vision. So I understand the notion of Bart playing a little deeper yesterday than what we have seen him previously. And Abby, a fan of seeing Saba and Luke on at the same time because you have speed on the left and speed on the right. Absolutely true. And let's see. So morning Emilio, morning Dell. Not necessarily. I mean, Dell's asking if wouldn't any other coach be fired by now? Not necessarily. I mean, you're in a place where Garth Lagerwey and Chris Henderson have put their faith in Ronny Deila, and what they are doing is, if there had not been a whole lot of activity in this secondary transfer window, then I don't think, I mean, you could extrapolate that there would be no faith in Ronny Deila. But because of the transactions that were made here in the window, I think that you see the faith and the trust in what Ronny Deila wants Atlanta United to be. You wouldn't be bringing in Barakal. You wouldn't be bringing in Alzate, who has played for Ronny Deila before. And you wouldn't be bringing in an Amihai to help out at center back. So if you were more static in your secondary window, then I might take that as, okay, here's what you got. Work with these toys work with this sand and these tools in the sandbox, and then build your castle this way. I don't think they would have been making the investments that they did in the secondary window, especially a player that has played for Ronny, if they did not have faith in what Ronny was trying to accomplish with working pieces. And I mean, when you think about the window, when you think about the secondary window for Atlanta United, you had Luis Abram, you had Mateus Klick go, you had Derek Williams go, and then you had Leo Afonso come in as well, someone else who Chris Henderson is familiar with on the wing, who basically wasn't getting any run at all with Messi and friends. And so you're bringing in players in positions of need, and you're bringing in players that you feel have been analyzed or have knowledge of with Ronny Deila to where it is what it's going to look like. So that's like I said, if there was less investment and less engagement, Dell, I would have said yes. But I think that there's you got the support from Chris Henderson, Garth Lagerwey in the front office, and so I think that's what you're seeing here with Ronny Deila. Let's see. I did not get the envelope. I did not. I think Joe has it, but considering that the Hoff is in Argentina, that when he comes back, he will have the envelope and it is concealed someplace that only he knows. And for me to reach out to him in Argentina probably cost us both like $72 for a simple text. So he is out of country, and when he comes back, then I'm probably, hopefully, getting the envelope. So next time around, when he is back, getting ready for the matchup against Columbus in 3 weeks, then hopefully it's not like either time sensitive or something that needs to be in a fridge, is it? Just asking. So no, I have not seen I have not seen the envelope, but I imagine Hoff is in charge of said envelope. So, but yeah, so it was once again 3 yellow cards to 1 to Atlanta United. Atlanta United, 17 fouls called, 3 yellows, 9 fouls called on Toronto, 1 yellow. Yeah. And yeah, so Abby was wondering about a second on Mihai. I was wondering on a second on Alzate in quick succession. And that was what you've been staring at a lot this season. Yeah, the unevenness of officials and officiating and the numbers and where they land. Abby with homework. Pineda's record for home matches when he was let go. That I do not know. So we have that homework. And then Abby mentioning, and Abby and Alex mentioning jury duty. And Alex says, I know it's a pain. We had to serve if you're called. Heaven forbid you ever need a jury. Wouldn't you want a reasonable and fair person sitting in that box? Yes, absolutely true. Absolutely true. Be that person for someone else. And Abby says federal is tough because you can't bring in anything into the building with a camera. So phone and computer can't come into the building. And Jayden signed a lot of stuff, hammering the spike, player of the match. Very, very cool. And I give the 17s a lot of credit for staying and being a part of the unified match. Absolutely true. So it was, all of that stuff. Morning Wiley, and Wiley was there. And yeah, and Wiley, to your point, those kinds of games, unfortunately, turn you away from the product that you're there to enjoy. Like I said, when one team is there not to play and the other team is trying, and then over time just gets frustrated and just is like, that it just frustrating across the board. Jordan's in Nashville, not as many. And yeah, absolutely true, Wiley. Poor Kansas City, no doubt. Yeah, Kansas City, they got some stuff to work out in the offseason. Kerry Z, I don't know. I'm guessing that Kerry Zavagnin might just be there for the season. I don't know if he's going to be. He's probably going to be considered for the new head coaching job, but that is the new full-time head coaching job for 26. But for Kerry Z, it is going to be a challenge with that roster. Morning, Katie Weaver. Then Wiley on the front office. Morning, Pars. And okay, so to jury duty. So to the point about jury duty, and this is a sidebar. This is not opening kickoff. All right. So the point was made by Alex. Wouldn't you want a reasonable and fair person to be sitting in the jury box? Yes. It made me flash to the last time that I was on a jury in the state of Georgia. And just to give you an idea of what the case was, that when you're in jury selection, the judge that had you into his courtroom at the time, photographic memory, and there would be 200 to 250 people in this judge's chambers, or the judge's courtroom. If it's 250 in the chambers, that's a pretty large chamber. So 200 to 250 prospective jurors in this particular judge's courtroom. When he dismissed you, like your services were done or whatever, and you were done for the day, or you were done, period, he actually would remember your name without paperwork. He would literally say goodbye to every person that was there in the room and remember their last name. It was stunning to me, the recall that this particular judge had. I was selected to be put on a case, and it was one of the weirdest. Yeah, Bart isn't. Yeah, so I guess Bart is probably in court, Abby. I think that's safe to figure. So we were in court. I was selected, and I'm guessing I was selected because my job at the time was fairly nebulous, and it didn't really have any impact on swaying the case one way or the other. And it was based on a shooting that occurred during a disagreement between two gentlemen who were trying to win the favor of a lady. And when the woman is called, the object of the two gentlemen's affections is called onto the stand, she was the least cooperative witness I've ever heard. Literally, she was. And it was the prosecution's trying to ask questions, and she's like, yeah, no, uh-huh, yes, no. And the key question to me at the time, at least with this particular these three individuals, was which one of these two gentlemen here that we were discussing are you interested in having a relationship with long term? And she said neither. So basically, the two guys that were as a part of the argument over the female in the case, she didn't want anything to do with either one of them. The least cooperative witness I've ever heard. So we go from there to having the defendant in the case on the stand, and they present their evidence. And what the charge was, it had to do with an aggravated, I think it was an aggravated assault. And it ended up as one of the gentlemen who was interested in the female witness shoots the other. And so the gentleman that pulled the trigger was the one that was on trial. And what the defense in the case wanted you to believe was that there was a struggle between the two gentlemen where the gun that was pulled out, literally the two gentlemen are fighting overhead, trying to, either pull the trigger or pull the gun away from the gentleman who ends up pulling the trigger. The defense would have you believe that in the struggle for the weapon above both of the gentlemen's heads, that in the struggle, the gun leaves the hand of the defendant, falls to the ground on its edge, literally falls to the ground on its grip, discharges once it makes contact with the ground, then discharges a bullet, and then the bullet goes inside the other gentleman caller's, like it goes in under his arm and then like out his ribs. And I mean, there you could tell that it was, actually it did go in the body. It's like it goes through his arm at the armpit and ricochets around and then goes out the back through his ribs. That was what the defense was trying to say happened in the struggle with the other gentleman caller, prospective boyfriend, whatever you want to say. And from there, we were all in the jury room, and we're all trying to figure out if that's even physically possible. If that is even, when I mean physically possible, I mean like physics. Like if a gun falls out of the possession of two folks that are trying to fight for it, and it falls on the grip, does it literally, when the grip hits the ground, does that do enough for a gun to discharge and do, into the body, ricochet and out? And we discussed that for a little bit. That was one of the main points. And then we were like, yeah, no, that's no. The object of the two gentlemen callers' affections wanted nothing to do with either one of them. So she was basically discredited as a witness, and you just like, you put her off to the side. And so you end up trying to determine, okay, what happened in the struggle for the gun? So we're like, no, it doesn't discharge once the grip hits the ground from about 6.5 feet in the air, and you're trying to rely on the bullet firing straight up into the air, and magic theories and all this kind of stuff. So obviously we came back with a guilty charge on the gentleman who had the gun in his possession as he was trying to fight with the other gentleman. Then, after we deliver that verdict, literally the prosecution comes back and says illegal possession of the firearm by a convicted felon. And we go into the room, literally raise our hands, yep, and then we come back out. That was the second charge was the fastest thing I think we'd ever done that entire week. And it was 3 days worth of jury duty, because you had the defense trying to navigate all of this gravity, and I mean that literally, in the discharge of a weapon that created the situation that was there. So after like 3 days, we finally come back with the first guilty verdict, come back with a second charge. Literally, we go into the room, come back out, and we're done. That was the last time I was on jury duty. That was the case that we had to handle. But those of us in the room tried to determine, was the shooter left-handed or right-handed? Did the gun have a twist? All of those things. To Alex's point, you want to try and be as fair a juror as possible in a case. And like I said, we went through every possible thing. We're sitting there going, okay, what about this? What about this? What about this? Giving the defendant in the case benefit of the doubt and trying to go through all of the activity, and then coming back with 2 guilty verdicts. So yeah, that was the imagination that was on display the last time I was in a jury trial. And I think, if I remember correctly, I was a morning choice. And then you had the afternoon of trying to determine if you were going to be on the jury. And then you go from there going into your case. So yeah, it turned out to be like 3 days worth of stuff. And I was like $75 richer by the time they were done. So that was the last time I was on a jury case. To Alex's point and to Abby's point, give jury duty the benefit of the doubt. If you're not chosen, you're not chosen. There's nothing you can do about it, except you're sitting there in a room trying to navigate the early part of your day, not fall asleep, and try not to hear, if you don't want to serve, try not to hear your name called. Or you wait for some kind of action and you're done by noon. So that was opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Life on a jury. That's your QR code. You hit that QR code, then what you do is you start your day with Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Then we encourage that you buy out the store. And you can buy out the store using the code SoccerDownHere15. That way, when you buy out the store, it's a 15% discount. Our friends at Kickoff Coffee, in turn, can take that and they will invest 10% into youth initiatives and youth programs that they have earmarked as a part of their giving back. Things that they have earmarked as cool. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Okay, rest of the weekend. Since we're on this riff, weekends with Atlanta United, everybody started on Saturday here on the network with Atlanta United and Orlando City B. And we mention Orlando City B, or Purple B, I guess, Purple Team B, because if you thought Toronto was disinterested in playing, then let me introduce you to Orlando City B. Orlando City B and their particular style of play, and I will use it as that, frankly, was more disinterested than what we saw out of Toronto. And I mean that truthfully. Atlanta United would lose at the death 2-1. We'll get into that in a second. But you ended up with Purple B playing worse than Toronto, just as interested or not, if not more. Literally, you had in this match 27 fouls called, 17 on Atlanta, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. None. Makes no sense. 3 yellows for Atlanta on 17 fouls. 3 yellows on 10 for Purple B. But legitimately, it was stunning at points. Once again, we talk about lack of rhythm, pulling out yellow cards for the softest things. You had that on the evening as well, and it was 4 shots on target each, 14 shots for Atlanta United 2, 8 for Orlando City B. But you had a keeper in Orlando City B. Legitimately, you had a keeper that could not have been any less interested in being where he was on the field at Osceola Heritage Park. Legitimately, you had a keeper who was delaying starting in the 25th minute. Literally, it's lollygagging. He's just kind of walking for the ball on goal kicks, sending everybody forward. You know, the idea of the clock on a keeper in this case should have been used, but was not. I mean, literally, if you wanted a lollygagging gold medal, you give it to the keeper for Orlando City B. You legitimately do. And you end up with Mercado getting a gold star, I'm sure, from the coaching staff for stalling. And that's what it was. It was stalling. It was legitimately stalling. And when you have an individual who really is just not the least bit interested in doing anything and gets away with it, then you're going to continue to do it. So once again, not a surprise that if you see something, then you're going to continue to do it. And it was, it was another frustrating night across the board. But it was goalless at the break, and you have this moment in the 48th to continue the hot play of Patrick Weah as a part of the offense. Once again, OCB and Atlanta United 2, Saturday night here on the network, early second half. Jason on the call.
Cibrian turns the corner up the right side. Here comes Didi Cibrian into the attacking third, plays it forward to Pita in the 18. Pita with the outside of the foot, and it's put home. Goal, goal, goal. Atlanta United 2, Pita to Patrick Weah, 1-0 Atlanta. Great finish from Patrick Weah as Didi Cibrian won the ball and took off up the right side, played it forward to Pita, who flared an outside of the left foot cross to the back post that Patrick Weah put home. Santi Pita with his first professional assist. Patrick Weah, his 4th straight game with a goal contribution. Atlanta United 2 scores early in the second half. 1-0 lead for Atlanta.
And there you go with Atlanta United 2, and it would be a goal at 90 plus 2 with ball sent over the top. Ronan Wynn is trying to shield Shaq Muhammad from the ball, and John O'Ransom can only go out to the edge of the 18. Ball takes a big hop. Shaq Muhammad gets in between, slots it past the keeper, and it ends up 2-1. And we'll bring Jarrett in here, and we will discuss the things with Jarrett. So Jarrett, we were just getting into Atlanta United 2 and their weekend to kind of start things for a really frustrating weekend across the board. We talked a lot about Atlanta United in hour number 1, getting into the twos here a little bit. And so now that you are at 2 time zones behind us, you were at T-2. So what are some of your thoughts from the weekend, either twos or first team? Lay it on me. What's on your mind?
We can start twos. You want good things? Because
sure. Go for it.
Didi Cibrian.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
Santi Pita Santi Pita is starting to look like an absolute game changer on the wing.
Yep.
That's great. We know that Wise is outstanding. The mistake at the end of the game is one that Ronan Wynn can't make as an older player.
Mhm.
And this isn't meant to be a segment to come down on Ronan Wynn.
Right.
He can't make that mistake, though. That's not something you can do in those situations because you are one of the older players in that squad, and that ball's bouncing back. To let it take that bounce to a 16, 17-year-old goalkeeper? Nah, you have to. There are those moments where, and the first team did this. I thought a really good job of this, except for the one breakaway in the second half that Jayden got rid of. It's a young goalkeeper back there. Your back line has to protect him sometimes.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that you do his job for him or anything, but you clean up those situations so that your young goalkeeper doesn't have to make a game-altering decision on the fly. And that's all it is. I don't mean anything else from it. It sucked because you had gotten lead and then you let it get turned around on you. I'm interested to see what they do if Silva stays on as the head manager, as the manager for the Tubes next year. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think they are statistically still alive for the playoffs. But
absolutely they are. Yeah, they have matches in hand.
But it's a messy table in front of them. Same thing we've talked about with Atlanta for the last 3 years. You're not dead, but it's a very messy table in front of you.
Yeah.
As far as the first team goes, it's flat. Started off nice, then it got flat.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't care. And because it's okay. We talked about this last year and the last 2 years. There was a time and a place to discuss matches in hand, to discuss points. Well, this year is a situation where that doesn't matter. I don't care if you're statistically still alive. You are not getting in.
Yeah.
Let's be real for a minute. Your season was an abject failure. Based on what you brought in, based on the expectations, based on everything you thought, based on everything everyone else around the country thought. It's an abject failure. What makes me nervous now is that kind of flat performance might seep into the rest of the way here. It shouldn't. But you gotta know, I talked to people who covered the Falcons in the 90s. Who taught when, John, you were there. In the 90s, watching the Falcons just kind of like fumble through the dark of existence. When there's nothing to play for anymore, sometimes guys just, they're not gonna put themselves on the line in the same way all the time, which sucks. Because you need to show something.
Yeah.
Because you have shown 4 wins worth of something this year. By all accounts, yesterday should have been 5. Great for Jayden to get a clean sheet. That was awesome.
Yep.
High still looks really good back there, the back line. You survived some less than stellar performances from guys like Ronald and Tristan. But you're not getting enough from the attack that you paid for.
Right.
That's the thing that will forever be not enough. There were moments in the middle of the season where you thought, okay, might have something here.
Yeah, the engine looks like the engine's turning over, and you're thinking.
Yeah, and then it just never did. I want to stress this to everybody because I feel like we need to. Chris Henderson is going to say what Chris Henderson needs to say. And this isn't a Chris Henderson thing. This is a technical director, general manager, player operations person in any sport. Any one of those guys worth their salt is not going to tip their hand.
No. Because the last
so
thing you want to do is be at a disadvantage at the negotiating table out of the blocks.
ding, ding, ding. Yeah, that, because I know people were losing their minds over the presser Friday, and then after this performance, even more so. Understandably, it's a bad performance.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they'll run everything back the same way. I don't know how much they would change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you did need to set up for one goalkeeper. I feel like that one I was curious about, because I actually had that question last week. The goalkeeper side of it.
Mm-hmm.
That one, you've got an option in house in Jayden who's getting a run out.
Right.
I feel like that one's not as tricky to deal with, because you can get a good goalkeeper this league for TAM. And maybe I don't know what Brad's plans are. And this is something I've been trying to figure out is, what is Brad doing?
Yeah.
Like,
I think if we play this out, Brad wants to be a starter in this league.
Yeah. But my question is how long does Brad want to play for?
Right, and that's the key. That is what is in if Brad, I guess this is an if then. If Brad wants to continue to play after this season in Major League Soccer, continuing to prove everyone that, when you come back from an Achilles injury, and you've seen Brad do what he has done, then I think he's proved his point to himself, and he's proved a point to a lot of folks in Major League Soccer. The question is, what does Brad want to do after this year? I mean, do you want to keep going? Do you want to go someplace and try and shop, your wares to the rest of Major League Soccer? Do you want to do that? Do you want to go and spend time with family? Do you want to sit on a desk? Because we saw that in the Club World Cup, and he seemed fairly at home sitting on a desk being a pundit / analyst. What the question is, at the end of this season, what does Brad want to do? That is the biggest thing, and that's going to be the trigger for a lot of other things in and around Major League Soccer, because Brad is 40. He's a man. He's 40, and he turns 41 September the 9th. So you have someone, and we always mention that keepers age differently, but he is 40 going on 41 next month. What does he want to do at this point of his playing career and his life? Do you want to go home and spend time with kids? Do you want to coach? Do you want to keep playing? Do you want to sit at a desk? This is what the questions are for Brad. 224 appearances in.
And to Wiley's point, like I don't know why that's the one guy you talked about, because you played the PR line with everybody else. I don't know why that was the one you didn't play the PR line with.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because that's the obvious one.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna sit there and talk about, man, this build was terrible. We're looking to unload these guys. You're not gonna blow your leverage up on your attack.
Yeah, we're gonna rip it at studs, and we'll build the house again. Yeah.
But maybe it's because Brad is obvious at this point, that you want to go get younger.
And do you want to do right by Brad one more time to see if he wants to continue to play, go to a place where he can win and possibly get another title before he retires?
No, and that's why I don't know why that's the one you talk about publicly.
Right.
And I'd be interested to see what Brad wants to do, because like we talked about before, his family's settled in Smyrna. He's got a sizable family. Like he's got more than one kid, and his wife living here for almost 10 years now. I don't know if he's gonna want to be a 2.
Right.
If he's gonna want to transition into coaching. I don't know if he has his licenses for it. I don't know if he's going to want to jump on the desk. I have no idea what Brad's going to want to do. But I also feel like that's a decision. And yeah, again, don't know why that was the only one that was kind of talked about in name when Chris was up in front of the microphone. But that's also one where you have a 41-year-old goalkeeper you would rather make that move a year too early than a year too late.
Right.
And I think Brad is serviceable at this point. He's better than serviceable, actually. He's been solid.
Mm-hmm.
There are some saves where he's going to tell you he should have made them. You can watch him and feel like, I feel like he should have made that. And maybe a few years ago he makes them. Because he's just undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
But he still makes saves. He still commands the back line pretty well. And it felt like the back line helped out Jayden. Like, he had that one breakaway he stopped. But he commanded his area well. And your older back line kind of helped your young kid.
Mm-hmm. Jared hasn't had his coffee, by the way.
Yeah, basically. Also getting ready to drive to California in a couple days. Not looking forward to getting on 15 and going south. But yeah, he could join Beyond Goals. Again, he's in the Atlanta area.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah. So I mean, it is literally it is in Brad's court as to what he wants to do. Like I said, turns 41 in 2 weeks. But Brad has proven to the soccer community that you come back from a debilitating injury with the Achilles, and he's come back strong as a keeper. But the question is his. What do you want to do? Like I said, if after what Chris Henderson said, I would imagine that the agent/agency representing Brad, if Brad wants to continue playing in Major League Soccer, it's like, all right, so you heard it, and so you're starting to gauge interest. It would be somewhere where he would be a 1, unless it is the right situation where you're a counsel that he would be comfortable with. And right now, it would be checking in with the folks at YMU and going, okay, I know that you just locked in James McAtee at Forest. I know you just locked in Tyler Adams. I know you just locked in Georgi Mihailovic and Christian Roldan and Jordan Morris and Andrew Moran and so you're calling your agency, you're calling YMU Group, and it's like, okay, either hit the phones or no, I'm good. So you see where things stand. And that, like I said, that's going to be one of the more interesting elements of the offseason, just because of what Brad has meant to this fan base, this club, the growth from day one. I mean, he's a day oneer. So what does Brad want to do? That's the question. But if he wants to continue, then probably YMU, when they heard what Chris Henderson said, they're on the phones. Hey, what's your situation like? Hey, let's talk at the end of the year, what have you. Something like that. Let's talk and we'll have conversations. But that's up to Brad. The next stage in Brad Gazan's professional soccer career is coming up. And it will set off some interesting dominoes down the line as to what's next for Brad, for a club that he might be pursuing a number 1 goalieship with, for Atlanta United. All of these dominoes that you're going to see in Major League Soccer and beyond are going to be influenced by the decision that Brad Gazan will have after he turns 41 years old. And it will be something that we're going to we'll sit there and look at, because we know that in looking at the academy, as much as we cover the academy, as much as we cover the twos, we know that the pipeline is there. Internally, the pipeline is there. With Jayden Hibbert, with John O'Ransom, with James Donaldson, that pipeline is there. And so you have that pipeline ready already with Jayden Hibbert. But once again, you got John O'Ransom, James Donaldson down with the twos and with the academy. So that is a part of what you're seeing with the growth of Atlanta United from an academy standpoint. But the decision that Brad Guzan makes will impact a lot of different things involving Major League Soccer. And obviously, we'll be here to talk about it when it does. So you had we mentioned the twos. The layout right now in MLS Next Pro, to Jarrett's point, the game in hand that you have, you got to win it now. And that's Wednesday on the network. Messi and Friends 2 come to Kennesaw. Pre-game show at 7, kickoff a little after 7:30, 7:33. Here's the layout right now in MLS Next Pro in the Eastern Conference. Red Bulls 2 are in. 48 points, they're in. They played 23 matches, so they're good to go. They're in, just don't know the where yet. Huntsville City Football Club is second. Philadelphia Union 2, who's had a rough week and a half, 2 weeks, they're third. One less win than Huntsville, 11-10. Fire, Revs, and Chattanooga FC are all at 41 points. Fire have the most wins. That's why they're fourth. Revs have a better goal difference, far superior by 11 goals over Chattanooga, and that's why they're 5, and Chattanooga Football Club is 6. Toronto FC 2 is 7th at 33. The Revs also have 2 matches in hand, so the max number of matches played right now is 23. Huntsville City Football Club, match in hand, 5 points back. Fire, match in hand, and they are at the top at 41 points. Revs have 2 matches in hand with the folks that have played 23, so they've got some wiggle room there. They can climb up the table too. Chattanooga Football Club, 23 matches, 41 points. Toronto FC, 23 matches, 33 points. NYCFC is at 32. That's the playoff bar. Top 8 get in. Orlando City B, with the win, they get up to 30 points and 8 wins. They have 2 more wins than Core. Core has some work to do. They have a better goal difference, but they need to win more matches, or they need to win 2 more matches than Orlando City B down the stretch if it comes down to the 2 of them. Crown Legacy's at 29, 23 matches. FC Cincinnati 2, 29 points, 1 less match, 1 than Crown Legacy. That's why they're 12. Atlanta, 2 matches in hand, 21 points. You win the 2 matches that you have in hand, that puts you at 31. So you catch up to everybody in your matches, you're in the fight for the 8. But the point or points that you could have picked up at Orlando City B may end up being huge. You've got to take advantage of the match you have in hand and continue winning. That's the bottom line. Inter Miami CF2, Messi and Friends 2 are at 22 points, 22 matches. And Crew 2 are at 17 points, 22 matches. They've given up 47 goals this year, and they have scored only 25 in 22 matches. By the way, Inter Miami, Messi and Friends 2, they've given up 53 goals this season. By far, the worst defense in MLS Next Pro, short of Tacoma and Sporting Kansas City 2. Sporting 2 have given up 55 goals. They've only won twice in 22 matches. Tacoma's given up 53 goals, but they've also scored 51. Tied for second to last in goals allowed in MLS Next Pro. So the thought that Atlanta United 2 can get on the offensive forefront in this matchup against the Messi and Friends 2, that's a positive. We'll be catching up with Jose Silva after the show is over. You'll hear that interview in the pregame show on Wednesday. So you got to knock off Messi and Friends 2. Then Hunt City comes to town on the weekend. It's a very, very busy Saturday. Simultaneously, actually, head start goes to us here at the network with Huntsville City Football Club coming to Kennesaw to take on the Twos. That's a big matchup across the board. And so with Hunt City being where they are in the standings in the East, they need to keep winning. They need to keep the pace. 7 o'clock pregame on the network, soccerdownhere.mixler.com, soccerdownhere.net, Atlanta United 2 and Hunt City, as they try to make up all of the matches that they have in hand. And then they get 2 weeks off. So I would anticipate basically a starting lineups of folks going up against Hunt City on Saturday. So give me what you can on Wednesday. Hope you get a lead. Rest some folks. Get ready for Saturday. Get full points against Inter Miami CF2. Messi and Friends 2 coming to town Wednesday, 7 o'clock pregame, 7:33 kick at the Fraction. And then same setup on Saturday night. I'll have the call for you and in Kennesaw. So I'll have that call for you. And it'll be pregame, 7 o'clock, kickoff, 7:33 on the network involving Atlanta and Hunt City. Then you're off for 2 weeks. Then you get the stretch run where you have 4 matches in September. Core is normal. Crown Legacy is normal. Then you have 3 matches in 9 days. At Matthews to take on Crown Legacy. At home at the Fraction to take on Chattanooga FC in a game that could be absolutely astronomical. And then on the 28th, the Fire at SeatGeek in Bridgeview before Decision Day, October 5th. And that is when Atlanta United is in LA, I believe, to have the late night game. Then it's going to be Chattanooga and Atlanta, 1 o'clock at Fort Finley on Decision Day. All the Eastern Conference matches at 1 o'clock. So we will know what Atlanta United's fate will be and who's going to be where in the Eastern Conference when the matchup at Fort Finley is over. The Eastern Conference will be set October the 5th. So that's the rundown for the twos, but opportunity for points absolutely lost in Kissimmee at Osceola Heritage Park with a goal at the death by a Purple Bee and another team that didn't want to play. Frustrate you. They want to goad you into things. Wasting time, 25th minute at home in a goalless match. And the officiating once again all over the place. Hard to get any kind of a rhythm or understanding as to where this official and this officiating crew was going. And it ends up with Atlanta United 2 taking it on the chin. See you later, Abby. Taking it on the chin and having their work cut out for them. That margin for error just got closed off a little bit more. Starts on Wednesday. You get a win against Messi and Friends 2. Then you got to play Hunt City. You get points there. Keep it rolling. And that's where things come into play. But like I said, 2 matches in 4 days, then you get 2 weeks off. So that's where it is for the twos. I did want to, before we get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it before we get out of here, I did want to talk about the unified team a little bit. And it was great to be there for the season finale against Toronto FC. And it was a win for Atlanta United Unified. They run the table again in Major League Soccer. And I think the game is up for archive viewing. It was at atlutd.com/live. It was great to catch up with Greg Garza, Brad Gazan, Jay Fortune, Matt Edwards, and to be down there on the field and see in Toronto FC a team that is in their first year back in 6 years, I believe. For those of you that may remember the first matchup in this home and home, it was up in Toronto. It was the morning of the Toronto FC match at BMO, and it was the Hoff and Greg Garza on the call. It was a 5-3 crazy game, and it was played 18-18 because Toronto FC, once again, this is the first time that they are back in playing in the unified environment in Major League Soccer, like I said, in 6 years, I say. And for them, catching up with their coach, seeing their players, seeing what it was like for them to experience Mercedes-Benz Stadium, to play on that field at Mercedes-Benz. Full shout out to Amanda Mora and her staff and her coaches and everybody up there at TFC and for coming down and being a part of the season for Atlanta United. And when the match was over, you got to see just the emotion from the Toronto FC coaching staff and from their roster. And it was at part a realization that this first team back in 6 years, their season was finished. And they were doing it on the road. They were doing it in the environment that was there. And obviously, we can't thank the 17s enough for hanging around, first and foremost. The fact that you had probably 500, 750 people there watching an Atlanta United Unified match. And I mean, you guys were spread out right there in that middle section. So I give you full credit for this. But to see the emotion from the Toronto FC staff and from the players when the match was over, and to be reminded what it means to be active in that kind of a dynamic. It was, and this was really going to be opening kickoff, but then Abe came in early. So I guess opening kickoff is at the very, very end, outside of opening kickoff being jury duty. But to see what it means for the unified team to be the unified team, to be really the king. And as I said at the end of the broadcast, I said they were the kings of soccer and the kings of MLS. To have gone undefeated again in Major League Soccer, to be recognized at MLS All-Star, to be able to participate in Genuine Cup and play worldwide competition, to have the season that they had and to be a part of it is very, very humbling. And I hope I'm not talking out of school, but head coach Marty Gelney, his wife, as I was leaving, all of the parents and some of the fans were outside of gate 1, and they were waiting for the players to come off the field, and they were going to catch up with them, and then they were all going to go on to go home on a Sunday night. And Coach Gelney's wife stops me, and it was very, very humbling what she said. She was very appreciative of the coverage, very appreciative of the way that we cover the team and what we get to show, and the idea that the unified team is really changing folks' lives. I mean, you read the stories that are up on the website at ATLUTD.com, and where you have these initially very, very shy student athletes be involved in the unified team, and now they're coming out of their shells. They're showing their personality. They're doing things independently now that they might not have had the courage to do otherwise, were it not for the interactions with their teammates with Atlanta United Unified. And to be told that by Coach Gelney's wife, it's very, very humbling to hear that hopefully in some small way, that when we tell the story during these match days, that we're showing how the sport can be a great unifier. It can be something that can bring confidence in you that you might not have known that you had. And to be a part of something bigger, to be a part of a team, to learn about team dynamics, to learn about other cultures and folks around the world, going to Genuine Cup and playing in a situation like that where you're going up against Ajax and a lot of other world powers. But you get to learn in a situation like that. That, to me, it's really cool to see. It's very humbling to be a part of. And when Coach Gelney's wife comes up and tells you these things, it's very humbling to hear that too. And what we do, Matt Moore, Lena Saul, Marty Gelney, everybody from the Atlanta United side, everybody in the broadcast side, Matt Moore, and everybody on the way down, with entrusting Jason, Maddie, and me to be and the Hoff to be the voices of this, and Greg Garza when he gets to hop in and be a color commentator for matches. For all of us that get to be the voices of the team, to be able to share the stories the way that we do. To us, it is sharing a team that you might not have known about and what it means to be a part of that team, and to show them grow athletically, personally, what have you. So for us to be a part of it, it's very, very humbling, very, very cool. And like I said, when you have someone walk up to you and mention what you're doing, it's like I said, it was very, very humbling when Coach Jellemy's wife came up and talked to us about it. So another unified season is in the books. It's still unbeaten in MLS. Genuine Cup, All-Star, the whole thing. So if you are close to the orbit of the unified team, stay in that orbit. Be there, be a 17 on the home matches. If you're there on the road and there's a unified match that's a tie in there, there's a way to go and see it, go and see it. And be sure that, when we get to share about inclusion and what sports can be, this is another example of that. Okay. Then Jordan says unified teams, both unified teams, join them in lot 17. Very, very cool. Absolutely cool. Okay, so let's get into what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it before we get out of here. Once again, tomorrow it's going to be Casey White. It's going to be Maddie. And it's going to be section number 2 in our conversation with Jason Stevens, the football consultant that we know over in England about multi-club ownership, and find out the whys this time around. Why MCOs exist, why they came to be, what to anticipate from them, and why ownership has changed in this way. So that's going to be tomorrow's show here on SDH AM. All right, so what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. You got Monday Night Football. Morning, David. Kid's dentist appointment. Yes, you did get in before I left. Good morning. Okay, so Monday. Be in at 1 o'clock has the Polish League, Wisła Płock and Zagłębie Lubin. That's at 1. Be in Espanol is simulcasting. You can pick that up at fnatisfntz.co/soccer down here, and you get to add that streaming service to your stacks. And you get all the be-ins, Nuestra Tele, CDO for the fans, Liga 1, Liga 1 Max Pro, Teise, our buddy Nino Torres and Gold TV, all the things. fntz.co/soccer down here. CBS Sports Network, Serie A, Inter and Torino at 2:45. USA has Newcastle and Liverpool at 3. ESPN Deportes, doubleheader in La Liga, 1:30 and 3:30. Fox Deportes, Liga MX Femenil at 11. Juarez and Mazatlan. Universo simulcasting the Premier League. ESPN Plus simulcasting the La Liga matches. And La Liga Dos, Cordoba and Las Palmas is at 3:20. NBCSports.com simulcasting the Premier League. Paramount Plus, doubleheader, Serie A, or 2 matches in Serie A because it's not continuous stream. Udinese, Hellas Verona, Inter and Torino, and Fox Deportes, once again, Liga MX Femenil at 11 o'clock on Fox Deportes, Juarez and Mazatlan. Okay. Ben Jacobs, since we still have time in the transfer window overseas, here's the greatest hits from Ben this morning. And it is Wolves have rejected a £50 million offer from Newcastle for Strand Larsen, their leading scorer. Stance is not for sale in this window by Wolves. That's Ben Jacobs and Alex Crook at Talk Sport. So Jurgen Strand Larsen is still a Wolves player for now. Also, there is a reluctance once again to loan Hwang Hee-chan to Crystal Palace. Wolves are focusing on incomings. Palmeiras set to bid for Fulham midfielder Andreas Pereira, who was left out of the squad for the matchup against Manchester United on Sunday. Pereira is open for the move back to Brazil. Leicester on the women's side made an offer of up to £100,000 for Rosengard captain Emma Janssen, informed the club that she wants the move. Rosengard don't want to sell. Janssen has only 4 months left on her deal. Leicester is not giving up on the deal. Crystal Palace, one of several clubs acquired on a loan for Conor Gallagher, according to Bobby Manzi. And Bobby Manzi with the Mirror and the Telegraph, among other places. Difficult to pull off in the final week of the window. Strong chance that Gallagher will stay. Leverkusen want Piero Hincapie's €60 million release clause triggered or matched if he's to move. Hincapie is asked to leave for closer to 45. If Arsenal outgoings result in a bid, Hincapie will push to leave under the release clause. Porto remain hopeful of signing Jakob Kivior on a loan with an option to buy. Bournemouth once again exploring a move for Axel Disasi. Sasha Tavolieri was the first one there. Chelsea prefer a permanent exit. Different formulas are being discussed. If Arsenal picks up Hincapie for 50, Ben Jacobs had Arsenal spending £300 million this summer. They'd hit 300 right there on the nose. Hincapie, more. Arsenal's pursuits contingent on outgoings, bid being prepared. Spurs don't consider themselves active suitors now and are not aware of any formal bid. So Arsenal, Hincapie, instead of going over to Spurs, once again, the release clause, and Kivior to Porto possibly has been the trigger for Hincapie to be coming to Arsenal. So Napoli in advanced talks with Manchester United over Rasmus Højlund. Loan with a conditional obligation discussed worth almost £40 million. A loan fee in addition. That's Crook and Jacobs on that one. A lot of stuff on Hincapie and Højlund this morning. And I'm trying to see if there's anybody else that is big on the move. Leeds advanced talks 10 days ago with Leicester to sign James Justin. And now Leeds has agreed to an 8+2 with Leicester for Justin. The move is now being finalized here as we get toward the end of the window. Wolves have now decided to move for Getafe's Christantos Uche, and are advancing on a deal worth £17 million, according to Liam Keane over at the Express and Star. It's not done yet, but it is close. So that is the rundown of everything today. And what we'll do, once again, we'll come back tomorrow. We'll do it again, as we always do here on SDH AM. It is tomorrow, once again, Casey White batting leadoff. She's going to talk college. She's going to talk NWSL, maybe talk a little Super League. We'll find out what's on Casey's mind from what happened on the weekend. Also, once again, Maddie's going to join us to talk first team, talk twos, talk a little unified. 10:30, it's going to be Jason Stevens, once again, breaking everything down as we go through all of the activities when it comes to MCOs and why we need to pay attention to it. So that is another go-round of SDH AM. As always, thanks for dropping by, as you always do. Back at it again in a little less than 22. And on a very frustrating Reaction Monday, it's the end of the show. That means I get to do this. Mucho Plati, I'll play it safe. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning. See you then.